Hello, everybody. This is Sree from Biz Buzz. What matters the most in your business, and sponsored by My Work Belt. My Work Belt is a software application, particularly created and catering to service-based small businesses. If you are a service-based business owner, if you have not checked out My Work Belt, I highly recommend you to check it out. Now, today we have a guest, Craig Andrews. Craig is a principal ally at Allies for Me, and they are masters in helping businesses that are high ticket, high trust items. And if you are one of those, I would highly check them out on alliesforme.com. Craig, how are you doing?
Sree, I'm doing wonderfully. It's good to see you again.
Excellent. Thank you very much for joining me today. Um, Today, an interesting challenge that I wanted to talk to you about. Right. Generally, when business owners they make a lot of decisions in the business. Uh, However, it will be relieving and it will be nice if they can delegate the business decision making to their employees. And delegation is very important role, and that will help the business owners to catch a breath or take a vacation or even to scale the business, right? Now, if the employees don't want to make a decision or not comfortable to make a decision without owner's presence, how does the owner should handle that situation? How do they respond to that situation?
So, Sree, that's a really good question. And the first step is a painful step.
Right,
And the first step is saying, okay, the reason my employees can't make a decision without me is because of me. I've done something that has created that environment. And there could be a variety of things. One is they just don't have the training, right? Which is
hmm
a me
yeah,
issue.
yeah,
The other, I was just talking to somebody a little bit ago, and in listening to him, the reason the reason his employees won't make a decision is because he has a zero failure tolerance level.
oh, wow,
Yeah, yeah,
that's scary.
yeah. And he had said a couple things as I was listening that kind of gave me that impression. I just finally asked him. I said, "What's the acceptable failure rate in your business?" And they do a particular type test. I don't want to
Mhm.
say too much because I don't want, I just want to protect his privacy. But they do a particular type test. And I asked him, I said, if your employees perform this test 100 times, how many times are they allowed to get it wrong?
Mm,
And he said, well, they can't. They can't get it wrong. They have to get it right all the time.
mm.
Well, here's the problem: humans make mistakes. If,
Whether you like it or not.
There is no such thing as a 0% failure rate when you have humans involved. Humans will make mistakes.
That
And
is
the
correct.
thing that became very clear to me in talking to him was he had created an environment where everybody was terrified. And so the reason they were coming to him for permission when they were asking, it was just very simply this: they didn't want to be held accountable for what happened if it didn't go well. And so they
Right.
were just trying to transfer
The
they were
risk.
trying to transfer responsibility. And ultimately he, as a business owner, is responsible, but he hasn't created an environment where people can operate independently. And at one point he said, he was expressing frustration. He said, I think I just want to sell this business and get out of it. And I said, I've got bad news. You don't have anything to sell. The business doesn't exist without you because
Without you.
because you've created this environment, so you don't have anything to sell.
Right. I mean, it cannot be run as an owner absentee business, and it cannot be run without him because now the employees don't know what to do and they don't have ability to make any decisions.
Right. Exactly. And and we see that, it's not just a small business issue. I live here in Austin. I live next to Michael Dell's ranch, Dell, the
Mhm.
computer guy.
Yeah, yeah.
And, and obviously a public company with some great advisors, and they worked on a succession plan where over a decade ago, he was going to step down and a guy named Kevin Rollins was going to step up and run the company.
Mm-hmm.
And when Michael Dell stepped down, the company broke.
Yeah.
And and so Michael Dell had to come back. He had to fire his friend. Uh,
Right.
he had to fire his friend. And I don't know. My hope with Michael Dell is that he's been working on, okay, what did I do wrong? And how
Yeah.
do I make sure? Because, even a company as big as Dell Computer couldn't run without Michael
Without
Dell.
the owner,
Yes,
and as big as publicly traded company.
right.
That's very scary.
It's really scary. And I'm sure that the investors, because his, board of directors, the investors are asking him, what are you doing? What did you learn from last time? And how do we make sure we don't do that again?
Correct.
So just because you're a small business doesn't mean that you uniquely have this problem. At the same time, if somebody as accomplished as Michael Dell, and Michael Dell is just a brilliant businessman, he's one of these freaks of nature that
Yes.
in high school was making more money than his high school teachers. And
Right. Right.
and um and so if somebody as big and as smart as Michael Dell can make that mistake, then you should give yourself permission to make it as well. But you should also start working on the fix.
Now, how do you suggest? Okay, the first step is a very painful step that the business owner have to accept it. It's me, it's not them. Now, let's say a business owner crossed that bridge and he or she accepted it's me. What next?
So, it's funny. In this guy who brought it up, he'd said something at one point. His wife's involved in the business, and he said, even she comes to me and asks permission when she knows what to do. And that was really where I got my clue. I was like, oh, you've created an environment where nobody can make a mistake. And even your wife knows that. And so I asked him, I said, if I texted your wife and said, I'm going to call him Fred. Um,
Mhm.
Fred wants you to tell him why his employees won't make decisions without his approval. I said, would she give you an honest answer? And he kind of hesitated and he's like, I don't know. She knows me pretty well. Meaning she knows that he's going to sit there and argue with her.
Right.
And I said, well, I'll do this, but here's the requirement. The only answer you can give her when she tells you why your employees won't make a decision without you, your only response can be thank you. You can't
Yes.
argue with her. It has to
You
be
cannot.
thank you.
Any one word more than thank you will turn it into a big argument on the phone.
Right. And so, in terms of how you have to fix it, you have to have people who can speak truth to you.
Correct.
And we're in a mastermind group. We've built some trust within our group.
Hmm.
And as a matter of fact, we just got back from our spring event, and he and I shared a room, and so we were able to connect, and we have
Hmm.
this trust built up. And so, because of that trust, I was able to speak truth to him in a way that he knew it was out of my care for him, my concern for him.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's really the key. Everybody has blind spots. Everybody has blind spots.
Correct.
And you need a group of people around you who can be honest.
Hmm.
And I think, when publicly traded corporations put in the requirement that you have a board of directors, I think that was the intention of that was, hey, running a company is hard. And so we're going to make a requirement that there's people that will speak into your business. And it's not just publicly traded. If you have something that's privately funded, if you go to a venture capitalist, and you ask them for money for your business, guess what? They're going to say, sure, here's my new seat on the board of directors.
Yeah.
And
Yep. Yep.
but the idea of the board of directors is it's a group of advisors that's supposed to help you. Now, unfortunately, in a lot of these companies, the CEO is often afraid to be totally honest with the board of directors because he could get fired. He may say the wrong thing, and his board of directors fires him. And
Yeah.
so, Sree, you and I met through Vistage, and my
Yeah.
definition of Vistage is
Is board of directors
it's a board of directors that can't fire you.
that cannot fire you. That's actually a good thing.
Yeah.
But you will learn a lot, and your blind spots can be discovered or uncovered, I should say. So, in summary, if a business owner is feeling suffocated that their employees are not making decisions, so the first step they have to accept it. It's because of me, not because of them, right? Because the leadership have to take the responsibility for any challenges in the business, not
Yeah.
just simply taking the credit for the success of the business. But it's opposite. If there is a success in the business, you pass on the credit to the fellow team members. And if there is a challenge in the business, you have to take the responsibility. Otherwise, you're not a leader at all to begin with.
Right.
So first thing, you need to accept it that you are the responsible party. And the second one is have a environment that creates and that they create an environment that have everybody to speak truth and be open-minded to take the truth, and which could be criticism, and that criticism need to be addressed. Whatever the critique given to you as a business owner, that needed to be properly taken into account and make a decision to change.
Yeah.
Is that summarizes well?
Absolutely. And you know what? Even Steve Jobs built a team that could challenge him and say,
Yeah.
Steve, you got this wrong. Now, you better have your facts in line before you go up to Steve Jobs and tell him it's wrong. But he created that environment where people regularly would, so like the original iPhone, Steve Jobs had decided there will be no SIM card on the original iPhone.
Yeah.
And his senior management was able to convince him. And it wasn't just him, it was Johnny Ive. So you have Steve Jobs and Johnny Ive, who were thick as thieves and very powerful in Apple, yet Steve still had a management team that had the ability to approach him and say, Steve, you got this one wrong.
Right. No, that's a great story. And I am so glad to hear that not only the small business owners, even the large corporation CEOs can have blind spots, and they have to be open to listen, and they have to have a team that can speak truth with them. Great.
Yep.
Thank you very much for joining me on this call today, and greatly appreciate your insights and wisdom that you're sharing with the small business community here on this platform. As always, pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Sree.